Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the Frontline Changes Report. I didn't manage to do the sit rep because I was burnt out and I got other things to do. So then when I started to do the mapping, and one hell of a lot of things, a lot of changes, a lot of things happening, and so there's no way to do the sit rep, but then there's a lot of Frontline Changes Report, like a lot. So most of them, almost all of them is red. The Russians are making a lot of progress everywhere, and we're gonna go through a lot of them. So we're gonna be at report on Zeleny, Borovka, and Voschansk, Berestove, Novi, Chasivya, Novobakhmutivka, Karamik, Novoporodske, Umansky, Netelove, Paraskovievka, Novomihailivka, Uruzane, Verbove, and Robotine. So these are all the frontline changes. We'll go into details a lot. We're going to start off with the Kharkiv front. So over at Zeleny, based on Ukrainian mapping, they previously say that maybe the Russians are not there. So now they have confirmed that the Russians are there, but the Russians just did not capture Zeleny. So they have made this change that the Russians have actually a certain foothold over at Zeleny. So Ukrainian forces probably are holding the defense around there, and the Russians are unable to push through. And the inability for the Russians to push towards Nekushne has been reported by the Russian side for some time already. So Ukrainian forces defending Nekushne is doing pretty well. So the next front line chase is over at Borovka. So the entire line here has pretty much collapsed. Russian forces, according to the Ukrainian mapping and also based on Russian mapping, has basically confirmed to have taken everything north of this river. This is the Seversky Donets River, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, it's the Seversky Donets River, and the Russian forces have taken basically most of this position and most of Borovka, and they are pushing south, moving towards Staricia, where the Russians are currently attacking, according to the to many reports, although the Russian Defense Ministry announced that they have captured Staricia. However, based on mapping wise, it has not been confirmed to be that's the case, but most of Vorovka seems to have fallen to the Russian forces, and all the forests over here north of the Seversky Donetsk River. So a lot of change. This is a very, very big piece of land, very getting captured by the Russian side. So so they can build a lot of furniture. So the next frontline change is over at Voschansk. So in the latest geolocations, Russian forces has been geolocated to have expanded their control and even taking positions at the bridge of the Voschansk River, which means that the Russian forces have actually continued to advance in this area here. So based on Russian mapping, it seems like they have full control of the entire this northern part of the Voschansk River. However, we have no indications to confirm this is the case. We will continue to monitor, but the confirmed case is that they have taken the bridge. So we will continue to monitor. The Ukrainians are putting up a very strong defense in Voschansk, so the Russians have not have a very good progress in this area. Moving on from the Kharkiv front, we go to Berestove over at the Kupiansk front. So these Kupiansk, and this in the Berestove region, we have expansion of the previous reported in the previous frontline changes report. We reported that the Russians have taken a foothold into Berestove. According to the Ukrainian mapping, they have confirmed that the Russians have expanded the control all around here, so it doesn't look so obscene. So now it looks like more like nothing. So that's the change over at Berestove. The next frontline change is away from this area here into to the Bakhmut front at Novi. So over at the Bakhmut front, at the Novi Chasivya region, so this Chasivya, this sub neighborhood is Novi, which is the easternmost neighborhood of Chasivya. Russian forces are starting to storm Novi. There is various geolocation of Russian forces attacking towards Novi, and with all these various geolocations, we can confirm that the Russians have a firm control over the entire outskirt of Novi. So the Russian forces has now expanded their control towards Novi, And the fact that the armored vehicles have basically driven across the field uncontested, which means that they have actually full control of these fields. This includes the Russian tank operating in this area here, which means that they also have expanded their control in the entire southern part of the forest. And according to the Russian mapping, the Russian forces has now claimed all of the forest in the southern part of Novi. They have taken everything right now. This is now under firm control, which allows them to attack northward towards Novi. So let me redraw this thing. So the Russian forces have entered also in the northern part of Novi. They have attacked through the road. They have do some firing attack by sending armored vehicles towards the eastern part. Tank geolocated here, showing that they have firm control of all the forests in the south, and they have taken all the way the position all the way to the canal. So the Russian forces basically have taken massive positions at Novi, and they are now trying to put pressure on the Ukrainians for them to redraw and run away from Novi so that they can capture this city easily, this part of the city. But the Ukrainians seems to be very determined to hold the position, so we'll continue to monitor and see how long the Ukrainians can last on this neighborhood. So this neighborhood has been one of the most heavily bombarded settlements and locations in Ukraine right now. So we'll continue to monitor the developments around here at the Bakhmut front. So the next frontline change is over at Novobakhmutivka. This is over at the Avdiivka front. So Avdiivka city is here, and Novobakhmutivka is the north of it. So in this area here, Russian forces, along with the KHARKIV region, according to the Ukrainian mapping, Russian forces have advanced in this area here. So some of these areas, or in fact most of this area has been already been claimed to be under Russian control previously. So most of it is considered a disclaim by the Ukrainian side. But this also, whatever it is, shows that the Russians are expanding firm control in this area, that to the point where the Ukrainians have acknowledged this. So Ukrainians have very strong positions in this area here. There's a heavy entrenchment over there. Evidently was bombarded by airstrikes. So we'll continue to monitor the fact that the advance is in the pincer, shows that this area here is going to be taken over by the Russians very easily, allowing the Russians to straighten the front line very, very soon. So so after this is Novobakhmutivka and KHARKIV. The next frontline change is over at Novoporovsky. So Novoporovsky is over here. Between Semenivka and Novoporovsky, the Russian forces have expanded their control, taking some of the tree lines around here. So slowly progressing. The Ukrainians are trying to slow down the Russians for as long as they can, defending all these different tree lines. If the Ukrainians are not there, the Russians wouldn't have taken so long. So definitely the Ukrainians are trying their best to hold the Russians back. So the Russians are still pushing, they are still progressing, and honestly, it's starting to feel like all this progress is a result of the Kharkiv offensive. I'm quite sure Ukrainian forces have taken some of this portion of the troops or equipments to be redeployed to the Kharkiv front, and maybe this is the reason why we're starting to see more changes. Like I'm only halfway through of this frontline changes report. There's so much frontline changes, and I think this is largely attributed to the fact that the Russians are now attacking Kharkiv, forcing the Ukrainians to spread out their resources, allowing the Russians to make more progress. So after Novoporovsky, the next frontline change is over Umansky. So this area here, the Ukrainians claim that they have control around the southern part of Umansky. This is predicted because the Russian forces previously attacked up to this point, but they didn't have firm control, so it's unlikely that the Russians are able to hold their position. But Russians are possible to hold the southern part further south of this area here, so this is a natural frontline change as a result. The next frontline change is over at Netolove, south of this position. According to Ukrainian mapping, Deep State UA, Russian forces have expanded control all around Netolove. So this is Netolove, and Russian forces continue to expand their control in the northern part, the northern outskirts, taking more and more forest line, of controlling and firming up their positions in the north. And and then there was this geolocation in the latest geolocation. Russian forces have been geolocated on the easternmost outskirts of Netelove, which means that the Russian forces may have actually captured the entirety of Netelove. But tentatively, I have not declared this as captured just yet. The reason is because there is still some parts of Netelove in the south which is not captured. So because of this area here, I did not declare Netelove as captured by the Russian forces, but the neighborhood, the residential area here, is now all under Russian control. So Russian forces basically have taken Netelove, effectively, or practically speaking. So we will just wait for more confirmation of the full capture that includes the southern part of this area here. So that's all for Netelove. The next frontline chase is over at Paraskovievka, over at the Donetsk front. So just now we were here. Now we are coming here. So over at this Novo-Mikhailivka region, Paraskovievka, the Russian forces have entered into the eastern part of Paraskovievka. In fact, they may have already captured half of it. This is reported by Deep State UA, the pro-Ukrainian source reporting on this. The Ukrainians may be struggling to hold back the Russians at Paraskovievka. The Russians have taken half of it, and then I think they're going to overrun the Ukrainian positions very soon if the Ukrainians are unable to reinforce quickly. So the next frontline change, of course, is in this area here. In the northern part of Novo-Mikhailivka, as the Russians are attacking Paraskovievka, the Russian forces take the entire line of trees in the north of Novo-Mikhailivka, straighten the entire front line. So this frontline change is very significant. This allowed the Russians to develop, to have a good foothold, and then to penetrate through this forest line and going south or going north, and and collapse the entire defense around here, so that they can then close up towards Konstantinivka. So this is the situation in the north. In the south, there is also frontline changes. In the southern part, the Russian forces have taken this area here. I think I have reported this in the previous frontline changes report, but you can see how much the front lines are changing since the beginning of the Kharkiv offensive. So after this area here, the next frontline change is at Uruzhaine. So this is also at the Donetsk front, but on the other end. This area here, there is a geolocation of a M113 getting destroyed by Russian artillery. But the fact that the Russians destroyed the Ukrainian armored vehicle here shows that the Russians are not there. So which means that the Ukrainians have expanded their control over in the southern part. It's a very minimal thing. So nothing to shout about. So the next frontline chase is over at the Zaporizhia front. Over at the Verbove region, so just in case you guys are lost, Zaporizhia city, Zaporizhia front. In case you are not familiar with the geography, the link to this map is in the description below. You can actually find this mapping yourself and look at all the sources and the mapping and do your own analysis. So over at the Verbove, Russian forces have taken these three lines around here, so expanding their control. This is basically a disclaim by the Ukrainian mapping. So they claim that the Russians are now here. But however, our Russian mapping is actually here. The Russian mapping is much further in front. So we'll continue to monitor. So this is actually in the Verbove, basically the entrance towards Verbove. So Verbove is here. So, and then there is also further frontline change over at Robotine, also Ukrainian disclaims. So according to the Ukrainian mapping, Russian forces have taken a heavy entrenchment on the southwestern part of Robotine, and Russians has also expanded their control in the southeastern part of Robotine. So this is their claims. Of course, based on our mapping, Russians are actually much further up. So, but it's okay. At least we are getting more and more corroborations. So definitely the Russians are progressing. This is exactly what the Deep State US reporting is suggesting. So these are all the frontline changes report. Just talking about the front line takes around 15 minutes. So which is why I'm not doing the sit rep yet. I think I could do it tomorrow, so you guys can digest all these frontline changes. So anyway, press the like button, subscribe, do share, help you share, because yeah, YouTube is not friendly, the algorithm is not working, is broken. I can only depend on you guys. Thank you for watching. If you like my work, do help to support through Patreon, and I'll see you guys in the next update.